Hello and welcome to Brodual. This time we're back with a long overdue update for Tamriel Online. Tamriel Online is a work in progress multiplayer mod for Skyrim. If you've never heard of it before, then we highly recommend you watch our other 3 videos on the mod. It's been almost a full year since our last update and the development progress has had its ups and downs. But over the last few months in particular, the author has kickstarted his engines and is back to working on the mod. The biggest change since our last video is that the mod has been rebuilt from the ground up, both on the client side and on the server. The author got rid of ScriptDragon, and in its place, the mod now uses the Skyrim script extender, more commonly known as SKSE. On the server side of things, the mod now uses a third-party tool called SmartFox, a dev kit for online multiplayer games. Both of these core changes make the system more stable, reliable and responsive, and you can really tell in-game. As you can imagine, rebuilding the mod took a hell of a long time, so progress can still be broken down into the 4 synchronization features: player, time and weather, NPC and quest. These were how we broke down the mod before, so we'll stick to it for this video too. One of the most important of those is player synchronization, which allows all players to see each other and their actions. The last time we looked at this, it was mostly functional but not entirely playable. By that I mean you can mostly get around together, but you still had to reconnect often to fix any bugs. Also, certain player features weren't synced, and teleportation was still a big issue because the server often couldn't keep up. This is where the new server and SKSE comes into play. Movement is now smoother than ever, and although it's still not perfect, it's as close to playable as it's ever been. All player races and genders are now synced, so you're no longer stuck to playing a Nord. On top of that, almost all animations can clearly be seen, and the transition between them has been improved. We tested the stability and responsiveness of the server by running from Whiterun to Markarth, and not once did we encounter a single teleport because of lag. Jumping from a cliff in the past was a guaranteed teleport, but now it's a smooth journey down to the bottom. Similar improvements can be found across all player synchronization. Previously buggy animations like jumping or sitting are still a bit jittery, but they're significantly better than before. Equipping gear in previous versions was often buggy and very delayed at best, but when testing, switching gear was now as responsive as our voices over Skype, practically instant. Entering load doors is safer than ever. We probably entered over 100 load doors while testing and can only recall 2 or 3 times where we encountered issues. 1 crash and 2 minor gear problems fixed by re-equipping. So player synchronization in the latest version is similar to before, but just better across the board. It's by no means perfect all of the time, but it's definitely getting there. While travelling, we also found that the weather and time synchronization was seamless, and not once did we notice a different time of day or weather at any point when using the mod. This is a simple but vital layer in the system to make players feel like they're connected in the same world, and we can confidently say it works very well. The biggest hurdle that these types of mods have faced in the past is synchronization of NPCs, from random townsfolk to the wild beasts of Skyrim. The latest version of the mod introduced a smarter system, which takes NPC distance into account. That way nearby NPCs are given priority by the server, which in theory should make things more responsive. Unfortunately, this doesn't quite pan out as it should just yet. The current version of NPC Sync is definitely less straining on the server and the players, but it's nowhere near as accurate compared to previous versions. Sometimes it was unclear whether the NPCs were actually synced because the delay was just so high. Despite that, the syncing was still playable in certain situations, particularly smaller enclosed areas like dungeons and bandit camps. We ran through several dungeons without any major issues, and we always saw the same types of NPC in generally the same area. Combat also works better than before, and there wasn't a huge delay between getting kills. And just like before, if any player kills an NPC, it dies for all players. In the most recent version, you can now use magic on top of melee combat. Archery sort of works and so does shouts, but they both have some major issues with aiming that makes them unusable. Magic on the other hand can look a bit wonky, but we never encountered an issue where the NPC didn't die from magic. Melee combat is by far the best of them all, and thanks to how responsive the new server is, you can see all players' individual swings without much jittering. Sometimes while scaling a dungeon, everything just came together perfectly. Every NPC was synced, all combat was working fine, and we could open locked doors and chests for each other. It was genuinely like Skyrim was a co-op game all along. It didn't last long, but those few minutes were amazing. And finally, we come to quest synchronization, which has also seen its fair share of improvements. Upon connecting to the server, your quests will now be synced to the host. This can be a lengthy process if the host has tons of quests completed and you're only on a new save, so we'd highly recommend players use the exact same or at least very similar save file when trying to load the mod. Accepting quests works mostly like it did before. If anyone accepts the quests, it works for all players. You can then work your way through the objectives and both receive rewards at the end of it. Certain quests still aren't synced, like Radiant quests, but those should come later. Altogether, Tamriel Online has been rebuilt and is now on track to make steady progress towards its end goal. NPC synchronization is still its biggest hurdle, but as improvements continue to be made, we're sure it'll only get better. In terms of modding, you can still apply the same rules as before, so just make sure all players have the mod in the same spot in their load orders. Occasional crashes and bugs are to be expected, but you can limit both of them by installing the unofficial patch as well as the crash fixes mod. If you're interested in giving it a go, then you can find everything you need down below. As always, be sure to leave me thoughts on any mod you enjoy, be sure to check out g2a.com, and thanks for watching.